right, good morning. So today what we're talking about is, we're still talking about vertex form equations, okay? So it's kind of just a carryover from what we did on Tuesday. So again, this is the vertex form equation. So I have f of x equals a parentheses x minus h squared plus k, okay? Where that's the general equation of vertex form. Each of those letters mean something else, okay? So hopefully you all remember from Tuesday. The A tells me whether I have a vertical stretch or compression, right? That depends on the A. Compression, I spelled that wrong. Okay, and it also tells me, the A also tells me whether my parabola opens up or opens down. Okay, that's what the A tells me. Remember, if it's a positive A value, it opens up. If it's a negative A value, it opens down. Okay. The H, so what's inside the parentheses, tells me whether I have a horizontal translation. Okay, so if I have any number inside of here, that means I'm going to have a horizontal translation. If there's nothing inside the parentheses, it's just x squared, then there's no horizontal translation, okay? The third letter, the K, that tells me whether I have a vertical translation. Okay, hopefully, and we've been looking at this for like a couple weeks now, so hopefully you know this. The new stuff we looked at are these bottom two right here. So if y'all remember, the vertex is, we take the h value, so whatever's right here, we take the opposite of it, and that's the h, and then we take the k value and put it right there. So my vertex for the parabola is the h value, comma, the k value, okay? Hopefully I remember that. And the axis of symmetry, the equation for that is x equals h. So we just take the x value, the h value, put it right there. So it's x equals, that's how it always starts, x equals, and then boom, put the h right there, okay? So let's look at a few examples. So what's different from what we did yesterday in the past couple of days is now we're looking for more things. So we did this, right? We found the vertex, the axis of symmetry, and we said if it opened up or down. We've already done that. So we're adding some new stuff to it. We're adding the domain and range, transformations, and the min or max. Okay, so we're adding a few more things. But it's the same stuff. So for example 1, right, I have f of x equals 2 parentheses x minus 3 squared plus 4, okay? So the first thing I want to do is identify the a value. So if we look up here, example, the a value is whatever's in front. So for example 1, what's in front is the 2. So all I'm going to do is write a equals 2. Okay? Easy. Now to h. So the h value is the opposite sign of whatever's inside the parentheses. Okay? So if I look at this example, right, I have a negative 3. Okay? But my h is not negative 3. It's the opposite sign of negative 3, okay? So the opposite sign of negative 3 will give me a positive 3. So that's my h value, okay? And then the k value, that one's easy. That's what's at the very back. You don't have to take the opposite. It's just whatever's in the back. So k equals positive 4. We can just write a 4, okay? So I have my a, my h, and my k. I can find all of these things just from these three numbers, okay? So my vertex, if we remember the vertex, it is it's parentheses h, comma, k, okay? So this is all we have to do. My h, for example 1, is 3. So I'm going to plug in a 3 right here for my x value, okay? Then in my vertex, my k should be my y value. So I look at my k value, I get 4. So I'm going to plug a 4 right in here. So the vertex of my parabola is 3, comma, 4. We're done. That's all you got to do there. Okay? Now we move on to the axis of symmetry, the AOS. That's what that stands for. So if we look up here, for example, the axis of symmetry equation is x equals h, okay? So I'm gonna already start with x equals, because I know every single time I write the axis of symmetry, it should start with x equals. So all I gotta do is, instead of h, look at my h. My h is 3, so I'm gonna plug in a 3 right there. So that's my axis of symmetry. That's the equation, x equals 3, okay? So now what we're gonna do is I'm gonna skip down to this one. We're gonna skip min or max real quick. We're gonna go to opens up or down, okay? So if you remember yesterday, there was two, I guess, kind of rules that I told you, okay? So if the A is positive, right? If the A value is positive, that means it opens up, okay? That's one rule. If the A is positive, it opens up. The other rule, obviously, if the A is negative, it opens down, okay? If the A is positive, it opens up. If the A is negative, it opens down, okay? So let's look at my A value. It's a 2. Is 2 positive or negative? Hopefully you say positive, which means it opens up. So we're gonna say opens up, okay? So that would look something like this, right? Okay, so now let's go back to that min or max question. So does this parabola have a minimum value or a maximum value, okay? So since it opens up, that means it's gonna look like this, right? It's gonna look like a U. So if I have a right side up U, does this have a minimum value or a maximum value? Okay. Hopefully, if you remember from the first couple weeks we did this, that means I have a minimum value, right? I have the lowest value right there. So because it opens up, I have a min. I have a minimum value. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense. So this right here, that's going to be the min. Up here, this would be the max. Okay. So that's another thing that the A value tells me. If the A value is positive, that means my graph opens up and I have a minimum value, okay? If my A were to be negative, my graph opens down and I have a maximum value, okay? That's all that means. Next, moving on to domain and range, okay? So domain, hopefully y'all remember this, domain is my X values, right? So, hopefully you remember from the first couple weeks we did this. The domain of a quadratic function is always the same thing, okay? The domain, because remember, it goes all the way to the left forever, all the way to the right forever. So my domain is all real numbers, okay? Just like that, all real numbers, okay? Now my range, remember, that is my Y values, okay? And my range is not all real numbers, okay? But the range is Y values. So let's start with Y, okay? Now, I know that I have a minimum value, right? I have a minimum value. That value is the vertex, okay? So to write the range, I'm gonna take the Y value in that vertex and put it right here. So I'm gonna take a 4, okay? Now, I have to think about it, okay? So if my graph looks like this, right? If it's a U, and this is a minimum value, okay? Are my Y values greater than 4, or are they going to be less than 4? Okay? If we think about that on a graph, right? Greater than 4 means my Y values are going to be all higher than 4. Is that true from this minimum value? It is true, okay? So my range is going to be Y is greater than or equal to 4, okay? I know that's probably the most confusing part in this, and we'll go through some more examples, okay? I know this is kind of tricky. This other stuff you should be able to get, but this is kind of tricky, okay? So we'll come back to that. Okay, now let's go to transformations. So transformations, that's what we did last week, okay? That's all like the stuff from using this equation, okay? So transformations, there's a few here. So let's go left to right. So starting with this 2, what does the 2 tell me is happening? Okay. Hopefully you should kind of know. If not, you could use the other notes that we've seen. But because this is a 2, it's greater than 1, which means I have a vertical stretch. Okay, I have a vertical stretch because this number in front is greater than 1. Okay, so it's a vertical stretch. Excuse me. Okay, so there's one transformation. Let's keep going. So we keep going, keep going. I see a number in parentheses. Automatically, if I see a number in parentheses, remember up here, that tells me I have a horizontal translation. Okay? I have a horizontal translation. Now, since it's a -3, okay, -3. -3 tells me I'm moving to the right 3 units. It's backwards thinking, I know, but minus tells me I'm moving to the right, okay? So horizontal translation to the right 3 units, okay? That's my second transformation. The third one, this is the easiest one, it's the number in the back, okay? The number in the back always tells me if I have a vertical translation, okay? And this one makes more sense, right? If it's a +4, that means I'm going up 4. So we just write vertical translation up 4 units, just like that. And we're good, okay? And we're almost done. Last thing we have is the graph, okay? So the graph, it doesn't have to be perfect, but I'm gonna show you how to get like a rough sketch, okay? So if I have my vertex is 3, 4, right? Let's go and plot that point first. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, right there. Okay, there's my vertex. And I have the axis of symmetry is x equals 3. So let's draw our little dotted line right there. Okay, now, if we go down right, we know it opens up, okay? So all I want you to do is draw a kind of rough sketch. So like, kind of like this. I know it's not gonna look perfect, but that's okay. As long as you kind of get the idea that it opens up, that's the vertex, that's the axis of symmetry, okay? And if we look at this graph, everything fits, right? The domain is all real numbers. The range is y is greater than or equal to 4. Like everything works out, okay? And then we're good on that one. If you have any questions, like you can rewind or go back. We're gonna do a couple more examples, okay? But that's the first page. The next page, I know it's kind of like a foldable, but I know you have it in 2 pages. This is the second page. So let me slide over. So that's page 1. We're going to look at example 2. Okay, so this is probably on the second page. So example 2, and we're not going to do all these. This is a lot. We're going to do probably a couple more. So example 2, we're going to do the same stuff. And this one should go faster. So I have g of x equals x squared plus 4. Okay, so same thing. We got to identify the a, h, and k. Okay, so first things first. A is the number in front. Do I have a number in front here, right? I don't have a number in front, okay? So if we don't have a number in front, we're gonna assume there's like an imaginary 1 for A, okay? And that's just for A. We cannot assume that for H and K, okay? And I'll tell you why. Okay, so A, we're gonna assume there's an imaginary 1 in front of x squared, because there's 1 x squared, right? Now let's go to H. So H, remember, is the number inside the parentheses, okay? Do I have a number inside the parentheses? I don't, right? I don't even have a parentheses. So we're going to put a 0 there, okay? We cannot put an imaginary 1 here because if I had a 1, that would tell me I have a horizontal translation, okay? So if I don't have like a number in parentheses, or say I didn't have a number in the back, you would put a 0 for H or K, okay? But because I have a 4 here, we can put our K is a positive 4, okay? So the only weird thing here is the 1 and 0, okay? But hopefully we'll see some more examples to kind of work that out. Okay, so on to the vertex. So remember the vertex, remember the ordered pair should be parentheses, H should come first, K should come second, okay? H is my X value, K is my Y value. So on my vertex, for my example, okay, my h is 0. So I'm going to go and put a 0 in the vertex, okay? My k is 4. So I put a 4 there. So my vertex is that easy. It's 0, comma 4. That's it. That's all I got to do, okay? And then the axis of symmetry, still just as easy, right? We start with x equals, and then instead of x equals h, I'm going to put my h. So x equals 0. And that's perfectly fine. I know it looks kind of weird right now, but that's right. It's perfectly fine, okay? So now I'm on to min and max, okay? So because my a value is positive, right? It's a positive 1, okay? That tells me that it's going to open up, okay? So if it opens up, just like the previous example, that means I'm going to have a minimum value because it opens up. And I know that's not a question on here, but it opens up because this value is positive, okay? And that's all for that. Now let's keep going. So again, we're onto the domain. The domain of every quadratic here is going to be all real numbers, okay? All real numbers, just like that, easy. And then the range, remember that's y value, so we start with y, okay? We're going to start with the y value in the vertex, so I'm going to put a 4 over here, okay? And now, again, since I have a minimum value, that means all the y values are going to be greater than this one, okay? So my range is going to be, again, y is greater than or equal to 4, okay? And hopefully we see a pattern of that so it gets a little easier. Now we're down to listing transformations, okay? This is the easy part. So, again, do I have a real number in front of the x squared, right? Anything other than a 1. Do I have anything in front? No, I don't. So I don't have a vertical stretch and I don't have a vertical compression, okay? I don't have anything in parentheses, so I don't have a horizontal translation. The only thing that I have is this plus 4 in the back. Remember, and any number in the very back tells me I have a vertical translation up 4 units, okay? Just like that. And that's my only transformation. That's all I can do, okay? So now we're going to graph this. So remember, it doesn't have to be perfect. So I'm going to put 0, 4. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 right there. My axis of symmetry is just this is the y-axis. And it opens up. So just draw like that. There we go. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just kind of a rough sketch. And that's perfect. That's good, okay? So example 2 is done. Now let's go to 4. Well, no, let's go to 5. This will be the last one for this video. It's getting kind of long. Okay, so example 5. We're gonna look at this one, okay? Because it has a lot of interesting stuff. So example 5. Again, let's start with A, H, and K. So my A value is going to be everything in front. For this example, it is negative 1 over 3. Okay, it's negative 1/3. Okay. Now the H, remember that's what's in the parentheses, but it's the opposite sign of what's in the parentheses. So my H value isn't 6, it's going to be negative 6. Okay, my H value is negative 6. Okay, now the K value, that's what's in the back. And we don't have to do anything with that. We just write it down. So plus 1, 1, positive 1. Okay, just like that. Now let's go to the vertex. So remember, the vertex is parentheses H, comma, K. So eventually you don't need to write it all down. So the vertex I'm going to write as, my H value goes first. So negative 6, comma, my K value. So 1. Negative 6, comma 1. That's my vertex. You're good. Okay. Axis of symmetry, remember that's x equals h. We wrote it up here, remember, x equals h. So I start with x equals, and I write my h value, which is negative 6. And we're done with that one too. Roll it along, okay? Now, okay, this is where it gets a little different. So I want to know if this equation, this quadratic, opens up or opens down. So this one, because of my negative a value, This one opens down. Okay, it opens down, which means that I don't have a minimum value like I did over here. For this one, this means I have a maximum value now. Okay, I have a maximum value. Okay, and that'll come into play later. So going down, still doing good. Domain and range, right? Just like we've been doing. So the domain, still, just like every other quadratic that we're going to look at, it is all real numbers. My graph goes for the left forever and to the right forever, every time on these quadratics, okay? All real numbers. Now the range, that's the y values, right? So let's start with y, okay? And we're going to start with the y value in the vertex again. So my y value here is 1, so I'm going to put a 1 over here with some space, okay? So, because now I have a maximum value, that means this is the biggest y value that I'm going to get. So that means that all my other y values are going to be less than or equal to 1. Okay? And look how that's different from this example, right? See, this one, I had a minimum, right? So my range was y is greater than or equal to 4. Okay? This one, I have a max. So my y is less than or equal to 1. Okay? See the kind of difference there. Minimum is greater than, y is greater than. Maximum, y is less than or equal to. Okay? That's kind of the difference there. Okay. Now let's go to transformations. So, transformations. Let's go left to right. So automatically, right, I see I have the minus sign. Last week, y'all are really good at finding this. If I have a minus sign, automatically, that tells me it is reflected across the x-axis. Automatically, that's what that minus tells me, okay? But I also have a 1/3, okay? 1/3 is in between 0 and 1, okay? And so even though it has a minus sign, you kind of cover it up when you're dealing with compressions or stretches. So since 1/3 is between 0 and 1, that means I have a vertical compression. Okay, it's a little bit wider. Okay, it's a vertical compression. So those are two transformations right off the bat. Okay, now this +6. Okay, since it's in parentheses, I know it's going to be a horizontal translation. Okay, but now since it's +6, that means it's going to be left 6 units. Okay, to the left 6 units. That's a bad 6. There we go. Left 6 units. And then lastly, I have this +1. That's the easy one. That tells me I have a vertical translation +1. So up 1 unit. Okay, so this one has a lot of different transformations going on, but we can still graph it. Okay, so we start with the vertex, -6, 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1. So right here. The axis of symmetry is x equals -6. So we'll draw that line right there. Okay. And this one, we know it opens down. So we have to draw it upside down. Kind of like that. Okay. Really pay attention to that. This one's how it's different from this one. This one opens up. This one opens down. Okay. That's about it. Okay. So this is all you'll have to do today. I just want you to watch this video and kind of learn from these examples. You can use this video to complete the assignment from yesterday if you didn't do it. Okay. I'm going to have a Zoom at 11 if you have any extra questions, or you can just email me. But y'all take care. I'll see y'all tomorrow.